Good afternoon everyone, we are the Group 2, and the topic that we're about to discuss is all about regionalism. Learning outcomes. At the end of this lesson, learners are expected to first, define regionalism. Second, elaborate different approaches to regionalism. Third, discuss the driving forces of regionalism. And lastly, explain the emergence and characteristics of Asian regionalism. Regionalisms. According to Purcell, it is a processes and structures of region building in terms of closer economic, political, security and social-cultural linkages between states and societies that are geographically proximate. One reason for this agreement is that scholars have different views on what constitutes a region, from which the term regionalism is apparently derived. Some define region in geographic terms, meaning to say it implies geographic proximity and contiguity. So, ang isang example dito sa Pilipinas ay ang ARMM or Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Sa region nila may sarili silang gobyerno na nagpapalakad doon sa mismong region. Sila nakikisabay sa gobyerno natin. Kumbaga may sarili silang buhay.
They are not equivalent. Some emphasize that regionalism is an intentional political process, while regionalization an often undirected process of social and economic interaction. Regionalism is a conscious process of institution creation undertaken by states, whereas regionalization is a process driven by economic and social forces. It simply implies that in regionalism, your proposition for collaboration and everything related to politics is deliberate. Instead, with regionalization, you enter into a partnership when there is no war. And here, you just proclaim that a foreign official can sit when your country is at war. Because of the circumstances, you are forced into making this decision. War is connected to the economy and social forces, because when a country is at war, it is natural that the economy suffers and people begin to panic. Regionalization involves increasing population flows, multiple channels, and complex social networks spreading ideas and attitudes. One of the things that regionalization does is to grow the population in an area and to multiply or spread the networks or connection of a state to help define the cultural identity or goods of our country. Regional cooperation refers to limited arrangement between states to pursue their goals without losing their autonomy to decide independently in areas deemed crucial to sovereignty. For example, you are the President of the Philippines and I am the President of India. You will propose agreements or law to me in regional collaboration that will occur when China occupies the Philippines. You are willing to have people from my country serve in your various government posts to assist you, but the executive branch are still from your country. You negotiated with me in that case, but you still have the power to decide on your own, or it appears that your country is still the most powerful in the Philippines if there is a conflict, since the president will be from your country, not mine. Regional integration refers to the creation of formal institution that entails some degree of renunciation of autonomous action. According to my understanding, regional integration is when a country creates departments for various things such as DOH, DepEd, and so on, which are essentially specific for your state.
Intergovernmentalism and supranationalism are two approaches of regionalism. Pag sinabi nating intergovernmentalism, it focuses more sa importansya ng mga kasabing bansa at sa pag-process ng creating EU-wide regulations. Then, yung susunod ay supranationalism. Ito naman ay tumutukoy to a large amount of power given to an authority which in theory is placed higher than the state. And in our case, alam naman natin lahat na this authority ang tinutukoy ay ang European Union. Next slide is about federalism and functionalism. Pag sinabi nating federalism, ito ay tumutukoy sa sistema ng government in which the same territory is controlled by two levels of government. Generally, an overreaching national government is responsible for broader governance of larger territorial areas, while the smaller subdivision, states, and cities govern the issue of local concerns. Next is functionalism. When we say functionalism, this theory is based on the premise that all aspects of society, institutions, roles, norms, etc. serve a purpose and that all are indispensable for the long-term survival of society. Functionalism approaches, nangangailangan ito ng kooperasyon lalo na sa mga limited areas like economy.
Neo-functionalism is a theory in which political actors are persuaded to shift their expectations and political activities towards a new center, whose institutions demand jurisdiction over pre-existing national states. Neo-functionalism describes and explains the process of regional integration with reference to how causal factors interact with one another.
Driving forces of regionalism. First, management of independence. First is kayang i-manage yung sarili nilang state or country by being independent. Second is management of interdependence. Being dependent pero with another country or mutual dependence. Third is management of internalization. Kayang gumawa ng mga produktong kayang i-trade sa international markets. Proponents of regionalism as building blocks argue that such arrangements promote internal and international dynamics that enhance the prospects for multilateralism. Ipapromote yung internal and international dynamics na mag-enhance sa multilateralism. Second is, regionalism can have important demonstration effects and accustoming actors to the effects of liberalization. Kayang makita yung effects ng liberalization. Third is, increased numbers of regional arrangements can weaken opposition to multilateral liberalization because each successive arrangement reduces the value of margin of preference. Sa pag-increase ng arrangements ay pwedeng maapektuhan ng multilateral liberation. Fourth is, regional agreements are often more to do with strategic or political alliances than trade liberalization. Yung arrangements is more often strategic or with political alliances kaysa sa trade liberalization. Last is, regionalism has more positive than negative political effects. May mas more positive kaysa negative effects when it comes to political effect.
East Asian regionalism follows different path from European integration, while EU adopts a supranational approach to regionalism, except in foreign and security policy. Asian regional organizations, particularly the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, are largely intergovernmental. Cooperation is based on the principles of non-interference and consensus. Another characteristic of East Asian regionalism is the centrality of ASEAN. ASEAN serves as the framework for greater and deeper regional ties. So the ASEAN's benefits are huge, and not only just in Asia but to the world. It could help sustain the region's growth, stability, and with the right policies, it could reduce inequality. Also, it could help power and stabilize the global economy by boosting productivity, raising living standards, and reducing poverty everywhere. A stable, cohesive, and productive Asia is thus in everyone's interest.
Next is the ASEAN regionalism timeline. In 1954, Southeast Asia Treaty Organization created. 1961, Association of Southeast Asia created. 1963, Mapilito created. 1967, ASEAN Declaration signed. In 1976, Bali Concord I signed adopted political cooperation. Next is 1992, ASEAN Free Trade Agreement signed. 1994, ASEAN Regional Forum created. 1997, Asian Financial Crisis ASEAN Vision 2020 laid down. Integration initiatives accelerated. In 2003, Bali Concord II signed. 2020 ASEAN Community launch. In 2005, ASEAN Charter process started. Next is 2007 Cebu Declaration signed. In 2015, ASEAN Community agreed. ASEAN Charter drafted. ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint laid down. In 2008, ASEAN Charter ratified. In 2009, ASEAN Political Community and Social Cultural Community blueprints laid down. And last is 2015, ASEAN Community launch.
ASEAN Visa Policy. Filipino students tour different temples in Cambodia and Thailand and a traditional village in Singapore. Under the 2006 ASEAN Framework Agreement on Visa Exemption, ASEAN provides nationals of member states a visa exemption for intra-ASEAN travel for a period of stay of up to 14 days, if the purpose is temporary visit. The Philippines visa policy, citizens of roughly 160 countries, including all members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, are not need to apply for a visa to enter the country. The amount of time you can stay without a visa depends on your nationality and might range from 14 to 15 days. Regionalism and globalization. The growing political, economic, and social interconnectedness of states, economies, and societies has challenged the regulatory capacity of states. Many new challenges arise from greater openness to economic, political, and social interactions with the rest of the world. Transcend national borders may be an instrument for states to be able to cope with the effects of globalization. Regionalism and globalization processes of an institutional component manifested in the emergence of new game rules in the economic sphere. All economic entities are affected. The rules of the game, which are based on certain countries exporting formal and informal institutions, and strong social and economic ties between these countries, are stumbling block to solving global economic issues. Increasing technical and technology country polarization, poverty, growth, and unregulated global economic risk. New game rules must be built on variety of state-to-state interactions, as well as state-to-state, business-to-business partnerships, including transnational partnerships. Worldwide economic organizations interact, and there is a close relationship between them.
Best in Christiansen 2008 have the following observation on the trends of regionalism. First, regionalism is a global phenomenon. It is happening in the different parts of the world. Because the world has become globalized, states are looking for ways to maximize the benefits of globalization or to mitigate its adverse consequences, and cooperation and integration at the regional level has become such an instrument. Second, there are differences in the types of regional arrangements. Some organizations use intergovernmental approach where members still retain their sovereignty over important decisions, whereas others adopt a supranational approach where the integration process is driven by regional institutions. Third, there is no single path of regionalism. Different regions have different internal and external circumstances. These circumstances influence the level of cooperation or integration member states might choose. We are the Group 2 and that's our report about the topic regionalism. Thank you.